Proposition 22 exempts app-based transportation and delivery companies from providing employee benefits to certain drivers. Initiative statute. Plain language, let rideshare drivers continue as independent contractors instead of employees and give them specific benefits. The background. Some companies allow customers to hire rides or order food for delivery on a phone app. These companies are often called rideshare and delivery companies. Most large rideshare and delivery companies are headquartered in California. In total, these companies are worth about as much as Ford, General Motors, and Fiat Chrysler combined. An independent contractor is someone who works for a business but is not an employee of the business. Drivers for rideshare and delivery companies choose when, where, and how much to work. Drivers use their own cars and pay their own expenses. Most drivers work part-time, and many drivers work for a short time or only drive occasionally. Rideshare and delivery companies pay drivers a share of the fare or delivery charge customers pay for app-based services. Drivers spend about 1/3 of their time waiting for rides and deliveries and are not paid during this time. Most drivers probably make between $11 and $16 an hour after accounting for waiting time and driving expenses. The state recently passed a law that limits the ability of companies to hire workers as independent contractors. The state attorney general says the law means rideshare and delivery companies must hire drivers as employees. The rideshare and delivery companies do not agree that the new law makes their drivers employees. The companies continue to hire drivers as independent contractors. The state attorney general recently sued 2 rideshare companies to force them to hire drivers as employees. If the courts agree with the attorney general, the companies will have to hire drivers as employees. As employees, drivers would get standard job benefits and protections that independent contractors do not get. For example, employees must be paid at least a minimum wage plus extra pay for overtime. Employees must also be allowed to take breaks and take paid time off if they are sick. At the same time, as employees, drivers would have less choice about when, where, and how much to work. Is my voice ASMR or nah? Long story short, for the entirety of their existence, Uber and Lyft drivers have been considered independent contractors. Recently, the state decided that they should be considered employees of the company. Uber and Lyft disagree. So now there's an election night showdown, and the voters will decide what they are! What does it do? Proposition 22 would override state law and make rideshare drivers and delivery drivers independent contractors. It would give drivers these benefits. Earnings minimums. This measure requires companies to pay 120% of the local minimum wage for each hour a driver spends driving, but not time spent waiting. Health insurance stipend. For drivers who normally work more than 15 hours per week, not including waiting time, this measure requires that companies help pay for health insurance. Pay for costs when a driver gets hurt on the job. This measure requires that companies pay medical costs and replace some lost income when a driver is injured while driving or waiting. Rest policy. This measure prohibits drivers from working more than 12 hours in a 24-hour period for a single rideshare or delivery company. Other requirements. This measure prohibits workplace discrimination and requires that companies 1. Develop sexual harassment policies, 2. Conduct criminal background checks, and 3. Mandate safety training for drivers. Finally, this measure limits the ability of cities and counties to place additional rules on rideshare and delivery companies. I would imagine many of us have already used ride-sharing apps like Uber or Lyft before, but since we're actually talking about this, I think you should really get a sense of what the process is like to understand more what's going on here. Now, Uber and Lyft will charge you a cancellation fee if you use their app and then cancel the ride. So for this test, I don't want you to go to either of those because I don't want you to get charged. Instead, go to paypal.me/the Darryl Johnson Show and enter the number of miles you want to go. Like say you just want to go 5 miles or even 100 miles. That's like, whoa, far, or 200 miles. You can put any distance and this site won't ding your rating. Put in a number for fun and click next. It's really fun, like really, really fun and relaxing. Try it now. Fiscal impact. The fiscal impact of Prop 22 would be minimal. With Prop 22, the companies would not have to pay the costs of providing standard employee benefits and protections, which usually make up 20% of employee costs. This would allow companies to charge lower fares and delivery fees, generating more business, resulting in higher profits that would increase the company's stock prices. Drivers would also benefit from the increased work opportunities. In short, the state would experience a minor tax revenue increase from both drivers and the rideshare company investors. Here is our Prop 22 trivia question. The company is now known as Uber. What was its original name when the service began in 2009? From Yes on Prop 22. Sacramento politicians recently passed a drastic new legislation that threatens to eliminate the ability of Californians to work as independent contractors, providing app-based rideshare, food, and grocery delivery services. By a 4-to-1 margin, independent surveys show app-based drivers overwhelmingly prefer to work as independent contractors, not employees. These drivers have other jobs, family obligations, or health issues and need flexibility to continue this work and supplemental income to support their families. Prohibiting independent contract work for app-based drivers would eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs. More than 80% of drivers work less than 20 hours a week, have other jobs or responsibilities, and can't set work shifts as employees. Parents who work while kids are in school, family members who work odd hours so they can care for aging parents or loved ones. Working families, retirees, and students who need supplemental income. William Ham, former nonpartisan state legislative analyst, says, eliminating drivers' ability to work as independent contractors will end the flexibility the vast majority of drivers need, severely damaging the proven on-demand model that quickly matches customers with drivers. The result will be much longer wait times, significantly higher consumer prices, and the permanent shutdown of services in many areas, eliminating hundreds of thousands of jobs. Prop 22 protects the choice of app-based drivers to work as independent contractors, saving California jobs when millions are struggling financially. Improves app-based work by requiring companies to provide new benefits, including guaranteed minimum earnings, funding for health benefits, medical and disability coverage for on-the-job injuries, and additional protections against harassment and discrimination. It creates expanded public safety protections, including requiring ongoing background checks and safety courses, zero tolerance for drug and alcohol offenses, and criminal penalties for impersonating a driver. Prop 22 preserves delivery services that millions now rely on to bring groceries, medications, and warm meals to homes, and rideshare that improves mobility and keeps drunk drivers off our roads. Prop 22 requires companies to provide drivers historic new benefits, earnings guarantees of at least $21 per hour, healthcare benefits at 15 hours per week, insurance for injuries on the job, strengthening protections against discrimination and harassment. Prop 22 is supported by these people. From No on Prop 22. Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash paid to put Proposition 22 on the November ballot. They hired lawyers to write this misleading initiative and paid political operatives millions to collect the voter signatures needed. Why? To create a special exemption for themselves that will legally deny their drivers basic rights and protections at work, like paid sick leave, workers' compensation, or unemployment benefits. Prop 22 only applies to Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, and other app-based delivery and transportation companies. Their goal is profit, and these companies would profit from this special exemption. Current law requires Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash to provide their drivers with a minimum wage, health care, paid sick leave, unemployment, and workers' compensation coverage, just like every other California business. The Attorney General recently sued them for breaking the law and for relentlessly avoiding responsibility to their drivers. With your vote, we can make them stop. Vote no on Prop 22. Why vote no on Prop 22? Prop 22 creates a special exemption that eliminates basic workplace benefits and replaces them with a new lower earnings guarantee and health care subsidy payments designed to save the companies money. Proposition 22 contains deceptive wording to cynically try to convince us that they are strengthening driver protections. The truth is, Uber and Lyft are already required to perform background checks, and the new provisions would eliminate required driver sexual harassment training and the obligations on Uber and Lyft to investigate customers and drivers' sexual harassment claims. The bottom line, Prop 22 is all about money. It's not about helping the drivers you meet if you use these apps. The outbreak of COVID-19 further exposed these companies' refusal to treat their drivers fairly. The New York Times editorial board recently wrote that these companies have failed to enforce consistent safety measures during the pandemic, including providing sufficient numbers of masks or guidance on social distancing, while pushing workers to fulfill an ever greater number of orders to keep up with a rising demand for food deliveries. These drivers, 78% of whom are people of color, are essential. They helped California through the pandemic, and they deserve better. We believe app drivers, many Latino, Black, and from other communities of color should have sick leave, health care, unemployment benefits, and flexibility in their scheduling. So don't let Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash confuse the issue. They claim this is about flexibility for part-time drivers. However, current law in no way limits driver flexibility. In fact, a University of California study found that the majority of drivers are not part-time, and over 70% of drivers for Uber or Lyft work 30 hours a week or more. Don't take our word, read it for yourself. Prop 22 was written by Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash for Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash, not their drivers. That's why tens of thousands of drivers have joined us to urge a no vote. Don't let Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash write their own special law. Vote no on Prop 22. Now, let's hear this sad story. My name is Jerome Gage. I've been a Lyft driver for 5 years. I like the flexibility. Before COVID-19, I drove 40 hours a week. I drive less now, but understand why. What I don't understand is why Uber and Lyft refuse to treat me as an employee, since that's California law. Right now, they don't pay minimum wage or overtime. They don't give us paid sick time. They shift the cost of doing business onto us. That's wrong. Vote no on Prop 22. They also think I don't deserve the health care or protections of an essential employee. When COVID-19 hit, they wouldn't even cover my unemployment benefits, but they paid $5 million to put Prop 22 on the ballot, and they say they'll spend another $100 million to pass it. Drivers like me would have used that money for PPE or more sanitation to protect us and keep our customers safe. If we get sick, we'd have health care. Uber and Lyft claim that I want to be independent. What I really want is to be safe and paid a living wage. That would give me independence. Recent studies show 70% of Uber and Lyft drivers work 30 or more hours a week, just like me, and our wages would be worse under Prop 22. How is that fair? Billion-dollar companies shouldn't get to pick and choose the laws they follow or write their own like Prop 22. Please join me and driver groups representing over 50,000 drivers. Vote no on Prop 22. I think we all need a moment after a story like that. Anyway, here's the answer to our Prop 22 trivia question. The company is now known as Uber. What was its original name when the service began in 2009? The answer is UberCab. Yes, they were first called UberCab. However, government authorities decided that since they were a cab company, they should be regulated like all the other taxi companies are. So then UberCab changed its name to just Uber. And look, now they're not a cab company anymore. Somehow that worked. If you're in certain industries, you already know about California's employee scheme. Every time they can force an independent contractor to become an employee, they rake in all the extra dough from requiring the company to pay this tax and that fee because the individual is now an employee. Then they become subject to all these other California-style debacle taxes that target companies over X number of employees. I'm sure the Attorney General was oozing with joy to try and make all of these drivers employees so that the government could find a new hidden way to raise taxes. And how devastated they'll all be if this passes and they lose the opportunity to waste all that new tax money on some new program, I'm sure. They want to make it seem like they just care so much about the hard-working Californian that they want to make them employed to make sure that they don't have the sad life that Jerome Gage has. But it's all a desperate money grab for the government. You could work for a given company 3 times a year for 5 hours a pop, but now be considered an employee. If you're a musician, you could do a twice-a-month gig for an organization, and now you would be considered an employee. Many workers are now considered to have 10 to 15 employers. The legislature looked at all of those drivers and started salivating over them like monkeys in a coconut farm. I don't think any of these people should be contractors. Your car, your hours, your choice, you're a contractor. And by the way, if you use Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates, Skip the Dishes, whatever, and find yourself deliberating about the cost now, you just wait until these companies have to make every single driver a bona fide employee. Do you think they're just going to eat the cost? Someone will be eating the cost, all right, but it won't be them. Enjoy your $30 burrito. If you vote yes on Prop 22, you are voting to allow rideshare and delivery drivers to remain independent contractors. If you vote no on Prop 22, you are voting to make them employees of their respective companies. The Darryl Johnson Show says yes on Prop 22.